Hello Milky friends, it is Milkstool here with you for another Idle Heroes video. How are you? I hope you've had a fabulous week. Another week has come and gone, the TC event has passed, and hopefully you've had some amazing luck. Although it's unlikely, look, the reality is you're all probably going to end up somewhere between 2,400 and 2,500 of these biscuits. And hopefully you got enough biscuits to get you these nice extra prizes if you participated. And if you went for the crown because you saved up universal crystal shards, then hopefully you went away and you got it. I certainly went away and got it because it got me the 9-star puppet as well and a whole heap of other stuff. So overall it was a pretty decent event. Obviously they're never going to repeat it. This week is a bit of a boring one. Well, in that there's nothing new or special to talk about. It's just Imps Monopoly. And I guess you don't want something new every single week. Otherwise you'd probably just be constantly spending money. But having said that, this week, as we go through the events, so TC events are over, this adventure pack has actually changed, and there's probably going to be a very quick video about this. So the first thing you'll notice is it's now $20 instead of $50. It is 1,500 gems instead of 5,000 gems, and I think this used to be either 50 or 60 scrolls. So they've halved the number of scrolls, and they more than halved the number of gems. So then you're like, well, is it still worth it, considering that I get about 10 dice for it? And I'm not sure if they've halved the number of dice. It's hard to tell. They may have halved the number of dice from memory. So you can only buy one, but it'll be interesting to see as we do the value analysis just what exactly that means and what you can expect out of it. Right, so if we go to the spreadsheet that we've previously done Imps Monopoly value analysis before, and it's hard to value the 10 dice by itself because we don't know where you're going to end up on the board. So if you're thinking about buying the adventure pack, you basically have to wait until the very end and see how many stars you end up with, right? So, for example, if you're one short here, or if you need the extra dice to get you to 230 or the 260 chest, it's going to give you a different payoff depending on where you end up. So, for example, if you end up at, I don't know, 180, you probably need a couple of extra dice. Considering each dice is worth about 2 to 3 stars, plan on 2. So the 10 dice extra there, if you end up on 180 dice, 10 extra dice will probably get you to 200. Although having said that, with the 78 dice that you get in the event so let's start again. To get dice in this game, you can obviously buy up to 30 at 150 each, so 4,500 gems that you can spend on buying the dice. And obviously the other place you get it is the shelter mission. So the non-light dark replacements that you do are going to get you 5 dice, so an extra 20 there. And on top of the 28 or 4 you get a day, 4 times 7, 28. So you're going to end up with about 78 dice overall, and that's how you get it, right? So 28 dice a day for free from the mail. Another 20 here brings you to 48, and obviously another 30 here gets you to 78. So 78 dice for most people, the range, right? There's a bunch of simulators out there, but I think the simulators are somewhat inaccurate. So there's a bunch of simulators out there that simulate how much dice you can get, but anecdotally, based on what I've seen, most people get anywhere from, say, 180, 190 to 210 stars when all is said and done, right? I'm going to say the average is bang on somewhere around 200, right? Just based in my mind, based on what people have shared with me and told me, I think most people can expect to get about 200 or near 200 dice, right? So then you're probably asking yourself, well, if I get near 200 or just a smidge over 200, should I buy the adventurous pack? And that's where you do the incremental analysis. And incremental analysis simply is saying, look, these dice are worthless basically at the start of the game. So if you just use 10 dice in the start of the game, it's worth absolutely nothing. But 10 dice after you use all 78 dice and could get you like the 200 star chest or the 230 star chest, right? And so when you do the analysis of these 10 dice, you have to include the value of the extra chest that you think you can get with those dice on top of the 1,500 gems, and the 30 heroic scrolls. And that's how you do basically the incremental analysis. You have to convert these dice to the next chest that you think you can get. I don't think 10 dice is enough to get you 2 chests. I think 10 dice is enough to get, or 10 dies. Die the plural of dice? Someone look that up and comment down below. So I think the 10 die will get you the next chest based on where you are. And so I think on that basis, it's actually quite easy to value this adventurer's pack. So if we go look at the spreadsheet that I've done, I've basically valued the different chests that you can get, the different stars, blah, 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 etc. And again, right, you can follow the links through on this spreadsheet. Basically, all of this is tied to how we convert the value of items based on the campaign currency conversion. So again, I know this is super controversial and it's going to be different things to different people, but effectively we converted these biscuits to gems here from Elvia's Workshop, or the campaign currency, doing when the campaign is on, based on a 1 to 1.25 factor, because 100 biscuits buys you 1 scroll, and 1 scroll is 125 gems. So 100 to 125, the ratio when you get rid of the extra zeros is 1 to 1.25. And so we convert all these other things to gems. That's how we get values for, like, for example, a light dark hero, basically a non-light dark hero. We can select any of them. So this chest is equivalent to, an interesting thing to note, Rogan is not in this week's Imps Monopoly select any hero chest. So if you're expecting Rogan, not there, but Sherlock is, which is quite interesting, because I would have thought Rogan would have dropped by now, but clearly not, because he's quite valuable to the point where obviously they think he's valuable enough that the devs are like, nah, he's good enough and people want him enough that we're just not going to put him in the box right now. But in the light dark chest, you can get the latest. You can actually get the latest light dark heroes. Right? Interesting, super interesting. Anyway, I digress. In incremental analysis, if we go back there, different star chests are going to get you these different chests, and the different chests have obviously different rewards. 9-star puppet's worth the most. It's 25,000 gems, followed by the chest that lets you pick any light dark hero, 4,188 gems it's worth. The materials, so in the materials chest, if we go over here, you can basically select from 100 million gold, I think it's 75 million spirit. Ignore chest 1. Chest 1 was just a smaller version of chest, but chest 2 is what you're after. So in if I go back to Imps Adventure, the materials chest here, let's just go source of truth. 100 million gold, 75 million spirit, 50,000 promotions down, 50,000 pink dust, and the monster bits. And so I haven't converted the monster bits to gems equivalent, but when you convert the promotion stone or the pink dust to the equivalent number of gems that it's worth based on basically where you can get it from. So CI merchant prices. So on Celestial Island, basically, I think that's the cheapest source of where you can get pink dust and promotion stone. And there, for 10,000, well, for 1,200 gems, you can buy 10,000 pink dust, which comes out to a factor of 0.12 per gem, or 0.12 gems per quantity. So sorry, it's 0.12 gems per pink dust is what I'm saying, and it's 0.12 gems per promotion stone. And so they're the same. And so when you look at the materials chest, 50,000 of each is equivalent to 6,000. So that materials chest is actually worth a lot, and it's worth the second most amount of gems. Then we have the light dark hero chest, or the non-light dark hero chest. We can pick any non-light dark hero, 3,141 gems. And like I said, incremental basis, you basically are going to get one of these chests by hopefully buying that adventurer's imp pack. So the way to do incremental analysis I've done here is, look, so as a minimum, you're going to get 1,500 gems. You're going to get 30 scrolls, and that's worth 125 gems each. So in aggregate, as a minimum, if you completely fuck up and those dice don't get you an extra chest, you're going to end up with 5,250 gems, and at $20, it's worth about $263. Well, you get 263 gems, per dollar spent. And as a reminder, the value threshold that we're after comparing all the things that we can buy in the game, historically speaking, we're after an average of 354 gems per dollar spent. That's what we're after. For comparison's sake, the best value thing that you can get consistently is obviously a monthly card, and that gives you about 800 gems per dollar spent. But that kind of value just doesn't exist outside of like a Black Friday or some stupid event. But in Imps Monopoly, if we go back there, so if you completely fuck up and you buy the Adventurers pack, and you miscalculate and you use the 10 dice and you end up with nothing, you don't get the incremental chest, then the value that you get from that is 260 gems per dollar. However, as soon as you start to include chests, it's a different calculation altogether. So for example, if you get the, and I have to fix my math here. If you, for example, get the non-light dark hero 5-star chests, where you can pick any non-light dark hero, then the value to you is the value of that chest plus the 5,250 gems, which is the 1,500 scrolls plus the 1,500 gems plus the 30 scrolls, divided by 20, and all of a sudden, right, the value of that pack, that Adventurers Imp pack, gets up to $420 per gem spent, which exceeds the value threshold that we typically expect to get when buying something, right? So then what happens if you're sort of, just you got 210 stars and you're basically like maybe 20 stars off the materials chest? So what's the value there? So then the value there, if we do the math, is, we can do divided by 20, but let's link the formula through. The value is even more phenomenal when you have the opportunity to get the materials chest, simply because the materials chest was worth way more than the non-light dark 5-star hero chest, and that's worth 6,000 gems. And so there, if wherever you end up with your star count at the end of the week, if you manage to buy the Adventurers Imp pack and you manage to snag out the materials chest, then the incremental value on top of the stuff that you get in the pack, in aggregate, you're going to get about 560 gems per dollar spent. So then what if you're super lucky and, for example, you end up with 235 stars and you're like 25 away from the light dark hero chest, and you buy the Adventurers Imp pack and you're lucky enough to get 260 stars from the 10 dice. What's that worth, incrementally speaking? So simple math. It's simply the value of that light dark hero 5-star chest plus what you get in the pack divided by $20, and it's worth $472. So hopefully that makes the incremental analysis a lot easier for you, given that most people are going to buy all the dice and they're going to get all the dice from Shelter, so they're going to end up with 78 dice. With 78 dice, you're going to get very close to 200 stars on average. You might get a little less, you might get way more, a little bit more, but on average, I'm seeing the averages or the median values around 200, right? I'm not absolutely saying you're going to get it. Some people get nothing, some people get more, right? Wherever you end up, then you've got to ask yourself, well, with 10 extra dice, is that going to get me a light dark 5-star hero chest, the materials chest, or if I'm super lucky, the light dark 5-star hero chest, right? If you were close enough, so and I would say plan on getting 2 stars per dice. That's the safest assumption. I used 2.5 and I've used 3 previously and I've completely fucked myself over. Be super conservative. Just expect 2 stars per extra dice that you get. So if you're 20 away from the next chest, it's a pretty safe bet to buy the Adventurers Imp pack to get that next chest. And based on the calculations that you see here, if you can get that next chest by buying the Adventurers Imp pack, you should absolutely do it. Like, it's just knockout value. Well, not knockout value. It's not as good as that monthly card, but it's worth more than the average that we typically expect to see and get of 350 gems per dollar spent. Everything here is like 400 and above. Hopefully that analysis makes sense. I've tried to simplify it even further. Last time I explained incremental analysis, so if you want to know what that is and how finance people and economists use it, and how people good with numbers use it, then you go back and you watch my last Adventurers Imp video. And similarly, incremental analysis, that's also absolutely how you should view life in general, right? So in finance, you get taught of the concept of sunk cost. And so everything that's happened in the past has already happened. There's nothing you can do. You just need to not be wedded to past decisions, right? You have to, anything that's already happened, and most of the time you cannot change it. So when you look forward, you have to ask yourself, disassociate from all the decisions and how much you've spent in the past. Looking forward, ask yourself, how much more do I have to spend and how much more do I gain? And this incremental analysis is quite useful for, say, I don't know, if you're building a bridge or you're building a house, like it's quite emotional. Typically people spend like a lot of money on it, like on a bridge. You get a lot of delays, cost overblown, and then the temptation is very often just to like stop building a house, stop building a bridge, or just stop big projects because you've already spent so much and you've seen nothing, well, very little to date that gives you cause for optimism. But then someone comes in to you and say, look, no, just spend this much more and then it's going to finish, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I've already spent $1 billion or hundreds of millions of dollars or even hundreds of $1,000s on a house. I'm not really seeing the results. I really don't want to throw more bad money into it. If that's the case, you don't want to throw bad money into more bad money. But if there is an end in sight and someone gives you a path, you definitely want to invest in it. Anyway, that's a very poor way of explaining sunk costs. You should actually look into it, but it's very closely related to the concept of incremental value analysis, which is what I'm trying to teach you all here, which I think applies quite a lot in this game, right? The concept of incremental value analysis. It certainly applies to an extent to this, well, last week's Elvia's shop event, where obviously you have an opportunity to buy the campaign currency, and the campaign currency absolutely you should value on an incremental basis. So if you end up with 2,400, basically, if you end up with 2,400 biscuits, and you were thinking about buying the $100 value pack, well, the $100 value pack, what does that get you? It pretty much only gets you this extra chest, this materials chest, not materials, heroes chest, and that's worth about 3,200 gems. So on top of whatever you got last week in terms of the scrolls and the coins and the 600 biscuits, you got to add this material chest to that calculation, because this is the chest you're probably going to get unless you spend a bit more and you get this chest. Anyway, that's the video for this week. There's not really much to talk about because you've all done Imps Monopoly. You all know what it's about. You basically go around the board using these normal dice, and if you're lucky to get enough of one of these dice, you never ever use it unless, well, the lucky dice strategy is basically if you're within 6 squares of this, you use your lucky dice to get onto this lucky dice hut to get another lucky dice, if that makes sense, because then effectively any of the 6 squares before the lucky dice hut are free movements to this. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Because if you're using one lucky dice, so let's say any of these squares, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one, any of these squares before lucky dice hut, assuming you got a lucky dice hut the first time or a few times you got around the chest or around the board, you basically want to use a lucky dice to get another lucky dice. If you have 2 lucky dices, you should basically use one lucky dice to upgrade one of your starry huts to the maximum possible if it isn't already upgraded, because these huts give you stars, right? So you want to get these mushroom huts to level 3 as quickly as possible to get the maximum number of stars. But yeah, that's a lucky dice strategy, and that's Monopoly. That's the only trick to it, the lucky dice strategy. Shelter mission, obviously Sia's here and everyone's trying to get her for Void, but if you got her last time using from the bridge, you're gonna have 2 copies now, and I think you already need 1 copy for Void. I could be wrong, you might need more, but I'm no rush to build Sia. And if you're trying to build Sia, just a reminder, you can use this chest. This chest has every single hero. So Sia's in here if you're after her. Like, she's right there. But I suspect most people are trying to build another Sherlock, probably a Delacia Mummy or a Garuda, right? So she is in there, right? There is more than one way to get Sia. The final thing that's probably worth mentioning is the next week, obviously, we're getting a new hero, and it's going to be my guess, it's an Abyss Ranger. Not Abyss, sorry. So it's definitely going to be a Shadow Faction hero, and judging by the release, so we've had an Assassin, Priest, Warrior, Mage, Ranger. It's probably a Ranger that's going to come up next. So you can expect a Ranger Shadow hero next. And so if you want to prepare for that and you don't have the right enough Ranger gear, you can probably just go into Grey Dwarf Birthing and get yourself a Ranger set pretty much now in preparation for that dropping. What else do we know about next week? Palace of Crystal, Puppet Package at standard. Autumn's Blessing. I think this is new. I think hopefully this is free, this Autumn's Blessing. This obviously, I think, replaces the boot camp. And so hopefully that does replace boot camp, because I think they're having these monthly events now. So Autumn Blessing, the event starts, you can get Autumn Statue of Gold, gems, or directly purchasing packages. Ooh, maybe I'm wrong. That's probably just more way to spend money. The puppet package is pretty standard. But yes, oh, I forgot to mention. Yes, the other thing. So next week you can, in the Heroic Exchange, you can get Drake or Sherlock. And so Sherlock has obviously featured quite prominently now. Obviously everyone tried to get 4 copies by doing the Prophet Orbs or by completing the TC bridges to get a Sherlock copy. So hopefully, I mean, I've got my 2 copies of Sherlock now, my 2 E5 Sherlocks. If you're still struggling to get it, you're just hard out of luck. But I would have thought most people would have like enough for at least 1 Sherlock copy by now. And so them just giving more and more away, it's actually quite interesting. In fact, they're giving Drake away as well, with a dark hero, says a lot to me as well. They're saying he's not really that worth it, because if he was really, really that good, you probably wouldn't see him there. Whereas, you know, we've seen Tara in the Heroic Exchange. We've also seen, who else have we seen in there? So we've seen Tara previously in here. Never seen an Ada in. Oh, I think I've seen an Ada in there, but Tara. So it'd be interesting to see when they put Russell in there. I don't think they ever will. Not for a very long time. Not until at least just before Christmas. I think they'll put Russell in there, but we shall see. Anyway, that's the event. I wish there was something more interesting to tell you, but there isn't. It's going to be quite boring this week. I might do a video on Amun-Ra. I managed to get 2 Amun-Ras to work with some of the new artifacts and beat a couple of teams. And I just wanted to do that before I replaced one of them with basically carry when I get enough carry copies. Anyway, that's the video. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Thanks for watching as always, guys.